Hey guys, Dr. Stephen Kirby here from the Chiro Launch, and I've got Dr. Russ Rosen with us today. We're going to discuss something really cool, which is implementing Shockwave into your practice. And what I always say to people is that selling technology is a whole heap easier, and getting people to do things with technology is a whole heap easier rather than selling self. And we'll go over some of the reasons why implementing something like this into your practice can really increase results from the clinical side, but also, increase the amount of revenue and the amount that you can make in your practice as well. I'll hand it over to you, Dr. Russ.
Yeah, so I love that. Every time we have these conversations, you always bring up all these really wonderful thoughts, and I steal a whole lot of your phrases too. So thank you for that. Um, it's funny. I have a lot of people that I've coached over the years that say in the United States there's something called Medicare, and it's for the elderly, and they might have like an $8 copay that they have to pay for their insurance, and they'll say, I can't get these people to pay an $8 copay, but they'll pay $6,000 for decompression, right? Right, check. They're bringing cash, right, for $6,000 for decompression. So absolutely, this whole technology thing is absolutely true. The reason why we're having this conversation is I saw on the Facebook group somebody brought up about, are you using Shockwave? If so, what kind, et cetera. And it really got a lot of traction. There was a lot of people really interested in this. And it's been going on in Europe for I think 30 years now. It's really starting to catch on fire in the United States now, and hopefully out in your neck of the woods also.
Slowly.
So I've been coaching doctors for quite a while on how to utilize Shockwave, how to integrate it in your practice, how to make it make sense for your patients, et cetera. So I offered to be able to do this recording, and here we are. Fair enough?
Sounds good.
All right, let's look at how to communicate it. It's a really simple, easy concept. And as always, we don't want to lose them with giving them too much information, right? So, and as always, we want to be able to integrate it into our practice. So our umbrella is we help people get healthy, stay healthy for a lifetime. How we do it? Well, I use chiropractic for this, and I use Shockwave for that. I use nutrition for this, but all of these things are merged together. It's not something separate, right? Because otherwise we find ourselves in this position where people are going, oh, I'll just do the Shockwave. I'll just do stretching, right? We've got to really always bring it through, health, nervous system, et cetera, which I'll show you how to do. So to bring it, all right, I want to give you just like a 3-minute wrap on the neuroscience of communication so you understand why we're about to do what we're about to do. Neuroscience of communication is a really simple concept. We've got a reptilian brain. The reptilian brain, for a living, filters information. It's all about survival, food, fighting, and fornication, right? Mm-hmm. So 96% of the information coming in through your senses doesn't make it past the reptilian brain. It's not that important to bring up to the conscious mind, right? So, you're sitting in class, excuse me, and you're thinking about surf. Oh my God, the surf is so good today. What am I doing sitting in class? And your teacher's going, wah, 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 wah. And then you hear, and that'll be on the test. You hear all this paper rustling, and right, because your reptilian brain said, well, that's important. You listen up, Russ, that'll be on the test. Do you have access to the information that when you were thinking about surf? No, you don't. You missed that. It didn't make it past the reptilian brain and the neocortex. So in an average conversation, you will hear about 25% of what the other person is saying, and vice versa. So much of what I teach in my communications courses is how do I get 100%? I want 100%, and you can have it. I guarantee it. So the trick is this. We need to get our information past the reptilian brain. If we can get it past the reptilian brain, it'll go to the neocortex. So, Dr. Kirby, neocortex, what's it do for a living? We've had this conversation several times.
Processes information.
Yeah, processes information, thinking, reasoning, and problem solving. That's what it does, right? And if it makes sense, it'll drop into the limbic system. Dr. Kirby?
The belief
It's a new belief system. Yeah, it's where our emotions are. It's where all buying decisions are. We think it through, but that's not how it happens. We go by our gut. It is. I mean, it's kind of study on this. So I need to get my information past the reptilian brain and the neocortex into the limbic system as a new belief system. Now, here's the problem. What we were taught was to speak from my neocortex to your neocortex. That's what we were taught, and it doesn't work, right? You lecture your patients, and all of a sudden you see they're drooling, the spit is hitting the ground, their eyes are glazed over, and you caused it, right? So if I want to get the information to the neocortex for thinking, reasoning, and problem solving, Dr. Kirby, who do I need to speak to?
The reptilian brain first, and then...
That's it. I got to speak to the reptilian brain. If I can speak to the reptilian brain, it will naturally send it to the neocortex. If it makes sense, it'll drop into the limbic system. Okay, so food, fighting, and fornication. Food, fighting, fornication. That's classically reptilian brain. Don't do that with your patients. Don't do that with your patients. That gets you in trouble. So if I'm not going to be doing that with my patients, I have to do something new or novel or exciting. So step one, if you're talking about them, they're listening, right? So in a consultation, we talk about this stuff. You're talking about them. They're listening. They're interested. Just talk about them. Now, new, novel, exciting. And if I use Socratic questions. So, Dr. Kirby, what is a Socratic question?
It's a question that's designed to get them to think.
That's it. So, who, what, where, why, when, how? What do you think brought this on? Why don't you think this is getting better? How do you think this could possibly help? Are you concerned, right? I'm trying not to have yes and no answers. I'm trying to get them to do this. Watch my eyes. That's what I'm trying to get them to do. I'm trying to get them to think, and you'll literally see them send the information in the neocortex and look right back at you. So you'll see normally when Dr. Kirby and I are having these conversations, I ask more questions, but we have a lot to go through, and there's a hard stop. So I'm not asking as many questions, but that's why I'm asking questions, because I know otherwise he will tune out. You listening will tune out. It's why I'm trying to ask questions. Okay, so now we're going to use Socratic questions, stories, and metaphors. Stories and metaphors live in the belief system area. If they already know it, they already know that it's true. All you have to do is connect it to something that they know to be true. And there it is. It lives there. You skip. It's like 8-ball corner pocket off the side. You skip the reptilian brain. It just got sent up to the neocortex. Okay, so when I ask doctors, what does Shockwave do? Are you really familiar with Shockwave, Dr. Kirby, or not?
Not heaps, no.
Okay. So I'm not going to be asking questions like I normally would. I'm just going to kind of lecture y'all. So do your best to stay awake. But in general, it does three things. It decreases inflammation, it brings blood supply, and it causes stem cell proliferation. Those are the three things that it does. So I want to put that into story form. Okay, if you say to them, well, we're going to decrease your inflammation, bring blood supply, and the stem cells proliferate, and they're asleep and they have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But if I say, I want you to imagine that in your home, the kitchen caught on fire and it burned down. It's burning down. What do we need to do? Well, get the fire department. And the fire department is going to water, right? Which is going to do what? Well, that's going to decrease the inflammation. So I'm connecting fire department, water, decrease the inflammation. Got it. They already got that. Step two, now that that's all gone, I need to get rid of all the bad burnt stuff. And then I need to bring in new building material so I can build it, right? So that's what the blood supply does. The blood supply is going to take away the bad stuff, bring the good stuff, the building blocks, the nutrients. But the third thing I'm going to need is I'm going to need a blueprint. I can't build this thing without having a blueprint. And that's what your stem cells do. Stem cell is an unproliferated cell. It's a cell that could turn into a nose. It could turn into an elbow. It could turn into a liver. It could turn into anything, right? So that's the story I want to use. So far, so good?
Yep.
All right. Now, in the report of findings, what I'm going to do, and this is only if it's your truth. You never lie. But in my world, it's true. You'll see right there, my little unit that I have right there, because I'm an extreme sports guy and I have been for too many years, and I have lots of aches and pains and problems. I'm always hurting myself. So I just have one for my house. Okay. So the conversation I'm going to have, and if you haven't seen this before, it's a path to optimal health. -10 is near death, and you know it because you're in hospice care. Most of our people aren't there. 0 is I'm comfortable. I feel comfortable, but I'm not really healthy. And if we redid all our objective tests, they wouldn't be clear, but you feel good. And then there's you as healthy as you could be. You know it because objectively, not only do you feel great, but objectively tests are clear, whatever kind of objective test you're doing. Okay. So what I'm going to let them know is this: if they've got frank damage in the wrist, they have frank damage in the wrist, right? So sometimes their wrist hurts and it's really from here, and you give an adjustment, it's all better. They don't have frank damage in the wrist yet. They don't have frank damage in the wrist yet. But if the wrist isn't working right, you do your tests, you do your tests, you do your tests, and it's not working right, and it's not gliding, but it's grinding, they're going to eventually have DJD in the wrist. They're going to have inflammation. They're going to have problems. So if they have frank damage in the wrist, would it make sense to not only make sure we're getting this taken care of, but we're also getting this taken care of? Sure. Now, what percentage of the time will you find someone with a wrist problem that doesn't have something going on in the corresponding spine area? Pretty rare, right? If this had been going on for any period of time, the disapparentation is going to cause subluxation in this area, somatosomatic subluxation, right? So in most cases, this is going on and this is going on. And in the exam, I'm going to help them see it very quickly. I'm just going to say, oh, you have wrist, let me check. And I know there are doctors that are like, we'll never talk symptoms and don't ever touch their wrist, only talk spine or only talk brain, you know, whatever. I get it. I understand the philosophy, but that's all about us. It's not about the patient, right? You go in with symptoms, you want to talk about your symptoms, right? So for me, I would just check the wrist, check the other wrist. I would do my pinky to thumb test. They won't be able to hold it. I'll have them hold this together. It'll go nice and strong, let go, it'll go weak, hold it nice and strong, goes weak. We now know they have a wrist problem. There's no words I need to use. They now go, oh, when I go like this, right, the canal, when I go like this, that goes strong. I have a wrist problem. Okay, fair enough. Now, if I go like this and I turn the head off to the side and I open this area and this goes strong, Dr. Kirby, what does that tell us?
That it's an issue with the cervical spine.
Yeah, that it's not just a wrist problem, but there's also something going on here. Remember, I said we want to connect to the spine and the nervous system too. So that's how I'm doing it in the exam. So I'm gonna let them know there is a frank problem here. You do have inflammation. You do have, you know, it's not gliding, it's grinding, blah, blah, blah. When I get to the report of findings, what I'm going to do is I'm going to help them understand if this is your truth, and I'm going to make up numbers. Okay. I could adjust you, let's just say 50 times over this period of time. And we can get you to probably somewhere around here. Now, obviously, you're talking about their health, you're talking about their well-being. You've done a full examination of the spine. You've looked at every area of the motor, sensory, and autonomic, right? You've looked at all of this stuff with them, right? Which we'll be doing some classes on this. But you've done all that. All I'm talking about right now is wrist and Shockwave, okay? The way I bundle it is I'm going to let them know I can do 50 chiropractic adjustments. And the best I can hope for is we get you somewhere up around here, or we could address what's going on with your wrist and what's going on upstream. We could do probably half as many chiropractic adjustments if we were to do 15 shockwaves. It will cost the same amount of money, but you will feel better faster. We will get you there faster, and we can get you healthier. Because the truth of the matter is if we don't take care of the frank damage here, once this is doing better, this will recause that. this will recause that, this will recause that. That's what happens, right? You got one shoe off, I'm limping, it causes all these problems. So I could just keep adjusting you, or I could put the other shoe on and keep adjusting you. So far, so good?
Yep.
All right. So that's what I would do in the report of findings. And everybody, see, if you go, you could do 50 visits, or you could do 50 visits plus 15 visits. Let me see. I think I'll just do the 50. But they have to know that I won't feel better as fast. I won't be able to get as healthy. I won't be able to resolve it. It will keep coming back. Oh, well, that's something different. I'm buying something different, right? So that's how I use it there. Now, we're doing okay on time? We are. Okay. Now, one of the things I really recommend, especially with Shockwave, is workshops. It's so cool. It's such an easy thing to do. Just give the basic chiropractic principle. Nervous system controls everything. If you're getting proper nerve supply, you got a better chance of being healthy. If you're not, we call it a subluxation, right? Just the basic premise. And then just dive into this story. Kitchen catches on fire, right? So what are we going to do? Well, we got to decrease the inflammation. We need to get rid of the bad stuff, bring the good stuff, and rebuild it. Now, if you're doing kinds of work, lots of doctors that I coach do types of work where they feel that we're going to take you from a Pentium 1 processor to a Pentium 2 processor to a Pentium 3 to a Pentium 4, where you're going from little tiny speaker wire to monster cable, where you're here helping people recover and get healthier than they ever did before. Now you can use that story and say, we're not just going to rebuild your 1940s kitchen. We're going to triple the size and put in Viking ovens and Viking, whatever those things are, and refrigerators and blah blah blah. We're gonna make it better than it ever was before. If you do that work, use that in your story. So far, so good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So then at the workshop, one of the things that you really can do with people is, come and bring someone that has something going on. You've already talked about chiropractic, why it's so important. And now you can just do a workshop and get somebody, move this, tell me what you feel, blah, blah, blah. Do a quick session and then just see if it moves any easier. And people will see 9 out of 10 times more than that. They'll have more range of motion. It doesn't hurt as much, blah, blah, blah. Now, Dr. Kirby, what question must I ask everyone right now?
That's a good question of me. I don't know. I don't know.
Good. And I love putting you on the spot like that. And the reason why I'm asking you that question, I didn't expect to know the answer, is because for those of you listening, I'm hoping that it caused you to pay attention too, right? So what question do I have to now ask everyone? Well, I have to ask everyone, okay, everyone, there are 3 things, and I would have it bullet pointed, there would be a PowerPoint. I go, there are 3 things that this can do. It can do what? They'll go decrease the inflammation, bring in the blood supply to get rid of the bad stuff and bring in the good stuff. And it's all written right there. They're going to say it and then come up with a blueprint. And I'm going to say, so we just did this. It moves better and feels better. What did we accomplish? And they'll go, you decreased the inflammation. I'll say, yes. Did we bring out bad stuff, bring in good stuff, and rebuild it yet? And they'll go, no. And I'll say, did I get stem cells that can take up to 90 days, 120 days before one session is going to have the benefit? No. So what did we do? We decreased the inflammation, right? A lot like taking aspirin or Panadol, right? But it didn't resolve anything. If you want to resolve it, it's going to take a series, and then you help them understand what a series would look like. And of course, stem cells, being able to rebuild the area, all that kind of stuff take time. So that's how I would do that in the talk. Yes?
Yep.
All right, last concept. How do I promote it? How do I promote this once I get it in my office? The first thing is this. All new patients come from energy. They come from excitement. So be excited. Build energy. Start talking with people about, I'm so excited I'm getting this technology. It's something I've really wanted. They've been using it in Europe for 30 years. People have been just getting amazing results in the United States with this. This is such cool stuff. I really wanted one of these. They're really expensive, but I finally just got one. They're not so expensive, but I would say that. And I'd have banners, I'd have balloons, I'd have flyers. Like everyone comes in, they know something special is going on. I'm telling them why I'm so excited. You might have a short survey that people can fill out. Hey, for us to better serve you, we've got some new technology. Do you have any aches, pains, numbness, tingling, pain, blah, 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 in any of these areas? Right? Shoulder, elbow, hand, finger, hip, blah, blah, blah. If you do have any of this stuff, is it affecting your daily activities? You have to take medication. Is it affecting, work, play, home, less mobility, relationships? I can't do the things I want to do in life. Have you been diagnosed with DJD or bone on joint, bone on bone? Little tiny survey like that. Now, if they answer yes to any of those things, what do I now know about them, Stephen?
Well, they're a candidate.
They're a candidate. That's what I know. So now I could take that survey and say, great, we are going to be doing a talk this evening. You need to come. I could record a presentation on a PowerPoint kind of thing, and I could have them go to that, right? There's, a lot of different ways to do this. Personally, watching your favorite band live, watching your favorite band on TV, not even close. Live is, to my perspective, always better, but not everyone wants to do it, blah, blah, blah. So you could just do a presentation. I would put a slide, if you have a present patient education presentation right now that people watch visit one, I'd put a slide in there, why we use Shockwave in this office. If you use heart rate variability, why we use this in this office. Just one slide, not spending a lot of time, energy, and effort on it. So in essence, all I want to do is I want to get really excited about it. I want to bring in all new patients. I'm building it into their plans. They can choose to do it or not. Hardly anyone chooses not to, because it's just a no-brainer. I've got all of my present people. I've got my reactivations, my email list. I can do marketing. I can do social media with Dr. Kirby. There's man, talk about bringing people in through what you do, Dr. Kirby. This is a no-brainer. This flocks them in. So I've got a lot of docs I've coached over the years here that bring people in for Shockwave. And now you've got a choice. They just meet your Shockwave person, and please don't be you, the doctor. Have somebody else trained to do this stuff. But they can learn how to sell plans. Right. They can do an evaluation, a quick evaluation, and say, it's clearly that's what's going on, but you also have these other things going on. You really need to meet with the doctor. So if you're trying to build your practice, I have several practices now that do that, and they get new chiropractic patients from it. I have one doctor right now who's so deeply waitlisted. He's like, please, no more new patients. I can't handle this. He's got Shockwave going, and he's really pushing people off to Shockwave, saying, do a dozen of those. And if you're not doing a whole lot better, our wait list will start to open up.
Yeah.
Right. So there's lots of ways to make this work, gang. But, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. It definitely can bring in a lot more people, especially at the end of the scale where, those patients that come in and they're like, I've tried this, I've tried that, and nothing's really worked, and I don't really want to get surgery. Those sort of chronic patients that have had elbow, wrist, shoulder, knee injuries, things like that, ankle problems. If they come in off one of those ads, they're doing something, and it's so much easier to get them to start, with technology, with Shockwave. They're not buying a person, they're not buying into you as a personality, they're not buying into your communication. They're just buying into, will this machine help me? And it's a funny thing with like humans trust technology more than they trust other humans, right? It's bizarre, but it's kind of how we're geared. And people just find that it's so much easier to get people started on Shockwave and even started on a mixture of Shockwave and chiropractic, because if they communicate it in that way, they're going to trust that process even more, that's going to work because of the technology. And then it enables you to charge more on the front end and be able to make more money, as well as get better results for your patients. So for me, it's like a no-brainer to add these sorts of things in.
Me too. And I'll tell you, hey, listen, I've tried everything before. Have you tried chiropractic? Yes, I tried chiropractic. Did they tell you had something going on here? Yes. Do you mind if I check? Yeah, you're right. They did tell you have something going on. You do have something going on. Did they also check this? Yes. Did they do anything for this? No. Okay, well, if this keeps recreating that, did it ever feel better when you got adjusted? Yeah, it just didn't last. If this is causing that, does it make sense that this alone isn't going to resolve that? Oh, yeah. So what if we took care of this and this simultaneously? That's it. It's such a beautiful piece of technology. It absolutely works. It's such wonderful stuff. And that's my version of how to communicate it.
Yeah. Yeah, gotcha. All right, that's awesome. So if anyone has any questions, shoot some questions below in the comments. If you want any more information, you want to know what sort of shockwaves are out there, who to get in touch with to talk to, anything like that. I'm sure Dr. Russ will be, more than willing to have a chat.
Yeah, flip me an email. I love this one company, man. They're so wonderful, and I've spent time with the owners, and they're as good as it gets, and they've been in the world for 30 years.
Yeah, right. So there you go. You heard it from Dr. Russ. So if you're interested in more information, or if you're interested in any sort of marketing to get your practice some of these new patients, whether it be from shockwave, spinal decompression, neuropathy, or just general chiropractic, please do reach out. We can have a quick chat and see whether or not we can help. All right, guys, have a good day.
Aloha, gang.